Good morning, everybody. Carmen here with Quality Sewing and Vacuum. I am here today to talk about how do you embroider towels. This is our How Do I series. Every week we go live at 10 a.m. on Tuesday mornings and we go through something. How do I do this? How do I do that? It's always about sewing, quilting, crafting, one of those great things. I'm from Quality Sewing and Vacuum, and we have 11 Puget Sound locations, and we also have a great website. So in case you're not familiar with us, now you know who we are. Our website's qualitysewing.com. So today we are going to go through how do I embroider on towels. So you may or may not be familiar with this, but we're going to start at the very basics, and we're going to talk about two different types of towels, more lighter weight towels, and then also more like terry cloth towels, because how you stabilize for those is going to be a bit different. So I have tons of supplies out here. I'm sitting in front of the Brother XP2. This is one of Brother's beautiful sewing and embroidery machines. So let's just get started. You can see here I've got some different towels out, but we are gonna start with stabilizing. So I don't know about you, but when you go into, if you came into one of my store locations or you go on my website, there are tons of different stabilizers, right? And we know we need stabilizer for pretty much every single embroidery project. No matter what it is, you are gonna need some form of stabilizer. And stabilizer does exactly what the word sounds like, right? Stable. It makes your hoop more stable, and it makes the design look better. So there's a couple of issues that we sometimes have when we embroider on towels. So like today, what we're gonna do, I'm gonna show you how to embroider on this terry cloth towel. And sometimes, some of the issues people can run into when they're embroidering on terry cloth towels is because of these loops. Sometimes the embroidery design can get sort of like lost down in the nap of the fabric itself. And this can happen with other fabrics as well. And some of the techniques that we're going to use on towels today, you can use on other fabrics. So there are some tools out there that can help you know how to stabilize for things. So one of the tools that I think is pretty handy, I'm just going to walk this way to grab it. I have my little sheet guide over here, is Floriani has a stabilizer quick reference guide. And you'll notice that throughout this presentation, I am using Floriani stabilizer. And that is because it is a premium stabilizer. It is our favorite stabilizer. It is a good value. It works really well. And the makers of Floriani are always ideating and creating new products that are gonna help your embroidery craft, which I love. Because we know the more we do things, sometimes we run into problems, and they create products that sort of solve those issues and answer the problem, which is great. So this is a great little chart. It shows you for different types of fabric or projects how you might want to embroider on it. So for instance here, the towel, the terry cloth towel, it says the base stabilizer would be Floriani Wet and Stick or Floriani Perfect Stick, and then you're going to need a topping, and they're recommending Heat and Gone. So we're going to do something very similar to this today, but this is a nice resource if you're newer. I believe you can also go to Floriani's website. This is something you can purchase from us. But you can also go to Floriani's website, and I believe they have a download of something similar to this. But this is handy because it can be on the wall of your room, and you're not going to lose it. Okay, so we'll put this back over here. So we're going to get started. I chose to use Perfect Stick Stabilizer, and Perfect Stick is really my go-to. I really like Perfect Stick Stabilizer. I use this anytime I don't want to hoop my product, right? Hoop what I'm actually trying to embroider on. As you might imagine, a towel here, because it's sort of thick, if I was to put it in the hoop, it could cause hoop burn. It's also a lot harder for placement to get it lined up properly. So what I prefer to do is use Perfect Stick. So what you would do, I actually was going to show you how I would cut it, but this was the very end of my roll. So you're going to open up your stabilizer, and you're going to cut it to just, like normally you probably wouldn't need it to be this big. You just need just enough that it can fit into this hoop all the way. And then we're gonna actually get this in my hoop. I'm gonna need some scissors that are stashed over here. So one of the things you always wanna double check, because I have done this so many times, it's honestly embarrassing, but you wanna figure out which side is sticky before you put it in your hoop. So I always peel and go, okay, this is the sticky side, right? So that means I need the sticky side facing up. The paper always needs to be facing up. I have numerous times, you guys, accidentally put it in backwards, and if the stick is on the bottom, it's not gonna work. But I do that sometimes because it rolls off of the it rolls off of this the wrong way. You have to flip it over, if that makes sense. And so it's easy if you're rushing to not think about it and just put it in your hoop. So we put the bottom part of your hoop down here, and you want the paper on top. And we are going to hoop this just like that here. Let's get it hooped. I probably need to loosen my hoop up a little bit here so it's easier to hoop. And because this isn't the project, you don't have to get too, it just needs to be in there sort of snug, right? You want to make sure it's not going to pop out. I always check my hoop and make sure that it's nice and flush all the way around the corners. And then, you should have a little bar down here, and you're going to twist it and make sure it feels sort of snug. Great. So that looks good. And then this is sort of the fun part. You are going to score. I always just score my perfect stick like this. And then I just find a good spot where a corner has come up, or I use my scissors and I go like that, and I just grab an edge. And you're just going to peel this all the way off. So you'll just keep peeling that paper until it's totally gone. And then we will be able to put our project on here. So I actually have one totally done here because I wasn't sure how long it would take. So we'll just let that guy aside here. So now we have this nice sticky stabilizer ready to go for us. And this is also handy to have a waste, have somewhere to put your trash. So now let's talk about the towel itself. So here is my towel. And when I do towels like this, I'm thinking that I'm probably going to fold it like this, where it's been folded. It's been folded in half in the middle here, and this is how I would probably lay it down. So the first thing you have to decide is you always want to think about how you're going to use the towel, right? Because this one we've folded here in the middle, right? And then I think this is how I would want it sitting in my bathroom or something, right? Whereas this one, because this is with some toweling, which we'll talk about embroidering on this one in a minute. This one, just because of where the stripe is, I decided that this one I wanted to just fold in half and put my design over here, and this is how I would hang it in my kitchen. But you want to think about how the end use is going to be for that towel, so that way you can put the embroidery design in a place that makes sense. So because I think that I'm going to make this towel in this sort of format, right, the end piece, what I did is I actually went and ironed my towel in half. Because what I want is I really want my design to be in this center line, okay? And you could use a pen and mark it, but I tend to just do a lot of ironing from creating my center points, because then what I'm gonna do is when I lay this here in my hoop, you can see where that line is, and my hoop tells me where the middle spot of my hoop is and for the embroidery design. So then I am just going to lay this in here with that center spot already just lined up. And then you can see here, because it's all sticky, I can just lay this down, and my towel is going to lay here really nicely. And I didn't have to fight it because I was trying to hoop the towel itself. So I love using sticky stabilizer. I use a perfect stick oftentimes for t-shirts. There's a lot of things when you're working with something that's not just like a flat piece of cotton. It's really nice to use a stabilizer where you can just lay the product on top. Another way to do this is if you had tearaway stabilizer and you wanted to use like 505 or some adhesive spray, you could do that as well. I prefer using Perfect Stick because then I don't have to worry about cleaning that adhesive spray off of my hoops. Because when you spray that adhesive spray, it always goes a little bit further. It sprays out into your room a bit more than just what you were trying to stabilize. So I really prefer just using Perfect Stick because I just find it easier to work with and less like sticky on my hoops and things. Okay, so we have this guy all hooped up here and ready to go. So now we can put this on our embroidery machine.
Were you going to use a topper?
We are going to use a topper, and we're going to talk about that. Okay, so we put this on here. So the next thing is always, I'm going to turn this machine a little bit. I think it'll be easier for the camera maybe. The next thing is, what do you want to embroider, right? So you can see here, I have lots of different samples of different things that you can embroider, right? You could do something that's for a season. You can see that I'm ready for fall, so I just did 2 for fall. We have a pumpkin here that says boo, and I'm going to talk a little bit about some interesting things I did on this one a little bit later. And then like this one is, a kitchen towel maybe, pumpkin kisses, harvest wishes. This is an OESD design called Pumpkin Kisses. This is this pumpkin here is also an OESD design. It's called Hello Pumpkin, and we have this in other store locations on the website. We have both of these on the website. And then, the other thing that can be fun to do for bathroom towels is monogramming or an initial or something. So we're going to go set this design up. And you can see here we have it done because I'm not sure we're going to get through embroidering the whole thing, and I want to take you through the whole process. But you want to think a little bit about what it is you want to embroider on your towel, right? I sometimes will also use Pinterest or, different. We're just going to go to embroidery here. One way to get designs is a lot of our machines have designs built into them. Oops, I hit the wrong thing there. And so there's letters here. If you wanted to just do some monogramming, you could always just go in here and say, okay, I want to do I'm going to go in and just add some different letters and create my own monogram, right? So then maybe I want this letter to be a lot bigger. So I'll use, let's just say we're doing something and I can change the sizes, but you can go in and, and you can set it here and you can move things around, and you could go in and create a monogram yourself. And we could add another letter here. Maybe I want, another one. So this would be really simple. Monogram, you can see there's sizing here. You can move this guy over here. So you could say, okay, great, I love this. This is the monogram that I want. And this would be one way to do your design, right? And you can either drag these, or like my finger's not hitting the right in the middle spot because my finger's sort of big compared to that little C. So you could also just go to move here and just grab it and move it where you want it with little bumps. But let's say that was what I wanted. Great, so then we could line it up for here. But the other thing you can do is you can always, I'm going to go back here, and almost all embroidery machines are going to offer what I'm showing you here, where at least this part where you can, put different letters and things into it, or you can combine both embroidery designs and letters. And that's how I did the pumpkin, is I took a pumpkin. You can see here with this pumpkin guy, what I did is I put the pumpkin in, and then I added my lettering separately, so I could put all of this together. So we're going to go back here though. We're going to delete and delete and delete. And we're actually going to go to our little pocket, because what I chose to do is, I could create my own thing, but sometimes it's easy to just find something totally done and just purchase that embroidery design. OESD has lots of great embroidery designs and Need a Good Design. There's lots of embroidery designs out there. And so the one we're going to do today is from OESD. It's called Knockdown Alphabet, and you can see it has all of these different designs. So we're going to do the L for Laponte, which is my last name. And I put it on a USB stick. So I had it on my computer, and I just put it on my USB stick. So I'm going to go to my little pocket here. And if I had saved it in the machine, it would be here. Like you can see the pumpkin there. That's actually the same pumpkin, just really different colors. I saved it into the memory of the machine, but I haven't saved the other design. So I'm going to go here to my USB, and I'm going to select. You can see I put some different things on here. You can see a couple of the different, you can see I've been putting designs on my USB stick. And these are all for Brother. They're all in the PES format. And most machines, you're going to want to make sure that when you buy the design, you're usually buying all the different formats. At least if you buy it on a USB stick or on a CD. And so you want to you only want to transfer to your USB stick the format that works for your machine. So PES is what works for the Brother and Baby Lock machine. So I'm going to select this L here, and I'm going to go to set. And so we can see it there. It has 3 different colors. It's right in the middle here, but I'm going to go to embroidery here because I want to go to my layout and I want to see where it is, right? Because right now, our embroidery machines do default for dropping the design into the center position on in your hoop, right? So I know that it's already in the center, and so if I'm trying to line up to this center point. I know the design is in the center, but do I want to bring it higher or lower? What do I want to do? So pretty much all machines are going to have a little trace feature like this, and they're going to work differently. Some of them you push it, like if you hit this one, it's going to work like this, and it will trace and show you the whole space of where the design would be. So you can see almost all embroidery machines are going to have that sort of function. This machine also has the function where I could just say, okay, well, I just want to see where the bottom is. So that is where the bottom is. So I could say, yeah, I'm happy with that. Or I could say, I actually want it to be, a little bit closer to this line here. And you can also see if I wanted to really make sure it was center, I can always hit this middle center point and it will show me right where the center is. And I can say, yep, that looks pretty good. I can, see each of the edges. But since I'm going to leave this down there and I'm going to go to OK here, and it's key, it will stay there for me, which is really handy because I know this is the bottom point of my design. And then I can just go to layout and I'm going to go to move. Now I could drag it, but because I don't want to move the center position, I don't want to accidentally drag it a little to the left or a little to the right. I just want to bring it straight down. So I can just tap it down here and get it right where I really want the bottom of that to be. So maybe right there is right where I want it. I think it's perfect. I'm going to say okay. Now if you were, let's say, making a bathroom set for someone, right? You're going to want to make sure that you've marked on each of those towels the same distance from your band, right? Because you want to make sure they all look the same. If you're just making one towel, then you don't need to think about how are they all going to be, right? You can just make the one, right? But if you're going to make a whole bathroom set for someone where you're making some hand towels, some bath towels, you want to make sure that the hand towels all look the same and the design is positioned in the same point. And you want to make sure the bath towels, that design is positioned in the same point, if that makes sense. So right now we're just going to say that we're really happy with this. But I do also just want to show you a really cool feature that this machine has because I love it. So this guy also has a projector. So I can hit this little projector dude right here. It's going to say, please wait a while. But then what it's going to do is it's actually going to project. Okay, why don't I see it? I have the wrong color here. Let me go and change my background color to white. There we go. That's why we couldn't see it, because my background color was set to black and the thread is black. The color of the design is black, so you couldn't see it. But you can see here with this projector, I can now move this box and see exactly where the whole design, if I move it up now to the middle section, exactly where that design is going to land on my fabric, which is pretty cool. The other really cool positioning thing that this machine has is if I go here to scan, I can also scan my whole background. Now this is a white towel, but as you would imagine, if you had a pocket or you had something that you're really trying to line up really precisely, you would be able to see that fabric in your background. So it's another pretty cool feature. So it's recognizing, it's scanning. It'll be just a second here and it will be done. There we go. And now it shows me, here's my towel, right? And there is where the design is. So this machine has a lot of pretty cool features that allow you to really just make sure that you have it perfectly placed. So I'm just going to turn my background image off because I don't actually need to see that towel, which is really handy. You can do it right there. And then we are just going to go, we're going to close this guy. And I think I am good to start embroidering, but not quite. So let's talk about topping. This is really the key thing that is going to help your embroidering on towels, okay? So we used the Perfect Stick, which looks like this for the back, right? We used 40 Perfect Stick. And the Perfect Stick does come in different sizes. It comes in like a 20-inch, it comes in a 15-inch, depending on how big your hoops are. And the reason why I mentioned the size is the size for the topper is really sort of different. So Heat and Gone is my favorite topper when I'm doing towels. There's two different major toppers out there made by Floriani. One is called Heat and Gone, which we're going to use today, and the other one is called Wet and Gone. So as you can sort of hear from the names, Wet and Gone washes away, and Heat and Gone irons away. And the reason why I really love Heat and Gone for towels is because a little bit of that stabilizer actually stays in the towel, where with Wet and Gone, as soon as you wash it, it's 100% gone. So what we're gonna do is we take a piece of this, it looks like this on a roll here. Sort of, you know, it feels maybe, it almost feels plasticky, but it's not plastic. It has a rough side and a soft side. And what we're gonna do is we are gonna lay this right here over the embroidery design area. You can just lay it down and not attach it at all if you want, or you can take some of the Floriani pink tape. This is what they call their embroidery perfection tape. You can take a little bit of tape if you want and tape it down so that way it doesn't shift, because the one thing you wouldn't want to have happen, because this is so flat, it probably wouldn't, but sometimes be based on, so we're gonna just tape this guy down here to hold it. This tape is like not too sticky. It reminds me of painter's tape, right? So it's not gonna like damage anything, but it works great to hold things down. It's great for applique sometimes as well. Yes.
So is the rough side up on that?
I put the rough side down, shiny side up, and this guy right here. So it's gonna lay here, right here, and what it's gonna do for me, and I'm just gonna try to show you a little bit of an example. So this one, I actually use lots of different things in here, and we'll talk about that in a second while this is embroidering. But can you see how this is really sort of really lost in here, in the weave of this towel? There was actually no stabilizer at all. No topping was on this piece at all because I was playing with a couple different techniques in this towel. So, but here you can see on this one and this one, you can see that they're really coming out of this towel, right? They're not getting lost in the weave, and that's really what the topper is going to help with, right? The topper is going to make it so your design doesn't get sunk in to the terry cloth. It's going to lay on top. So then I'm pretty happy with this blue color, so I'm just going to tell this guy to start going. Oh, I probably should thread it. That's going to help. Let's raise this up here. This guy has a great needle threader on there, so I just place it here, and then I'm going to hit my needle threader guy, and it's going to come down and thread the eye of the needle. The other pro tip I have for you, because this almost happened today, when I was bringing this machine over, I set it down, I started threading it, and I realized that my embroidery foot was loose. So always make sure, if you've been embroidering a lot, make sure that your embroidery foot is all the way tight. You don't want it to like fall off mid-embroidery. Yes?
Vicki would like to know, when should you use that topper?
When should you use the heat and gone? You should use the heat and gone anytime you have dense, like if you have, anytime that your embroidery design might sink into something. So it works nice on polar fleece, it works nice on towels, it works nice anytime that you have a fabric that has so much weight and sort of puffiness that the embroidery design might get like lost in it. It's gonna keep the embroidery design on top. Okay, so we're gonna start embroidering here. I guess the other thing, when I start a new project, I always put a new bobbin in, or at least check and make sure. I like to use the pre-wound bobbins because they pulled more embroidery thread on them than when we wind them ourselves. So I love using like these. This is the Filtech pre-wound bobbin. This machine uses a class 15, but there's two different major sizes of pre-wound bobbins, the class 15 or the class L, and those fit most machines. But make sure you have a complete bobbin, because it's always a bummer to start your project in 5 stitches and it's like, you're low on bobbin, and then you have to pull the hoop out and put a new bobbin in. So start with a fresh bobbin to be the most efficient. Okay, and then we're just gonna hit go, and it is going to start embroidering. And I have it at the fastest thing here, so we're gonna let it do a little bit so you can sort of see how it works here with the stabilizer. And it's just gonna go through and work on this. Now, can you hear me well enough while this is going if I stand over here a little bit so we can let it go in the background? I hope so. So I'm gonna grab a couple more things to drag over here with me to talk about. So I wanna tell you about what I did in this towel, because it was sort of fun. There it is. Okay, so I'm gonna tell you about this color keeper topping and some of the things I played with on this towel. But first I wanna tell you about this Floriani stabilizer and tool workbook. This is really handy because it tells you exactly how to use each stabilizer. So for instance, with this heat and gone, And the heat and con comes in like a larger put-up or a smaller put-up, and I guess I didn't really finish talking about the size, but because a topper doesn't have to fill your whole hoop, you don't really need a really long, you could always get a 20-inch one, but I find a smaller put-up is just fine because you're just cutting a small piece to just cover the area where the embroidery design is. So if you're doing a really large embroidery design on a towel, then maybe you want a longer one, but I find a smaller put-up is just fine. We mostly sell it in this 10-inch put-up, either at 10 inches and 10 yards or 10 inches and 25 yards, depending on, you know, how much you're using. But like when you read the packaging here, it tells you, you know, that it's a unique topping stabilizer that's removed with an iron or heat press. Use on high pile fabrics such as towels and velvet to keep your stitching elevated and smooth. It is also ideal for fabrics that cannot withstand moisture, such as delicate raw silk and satins, right? And it says use only on fabrics that are able to withstand a temperature of 300 degrees. So, great, and it says an iron is recommended for removal of products. What would your question be? I had a question when I read this the first time, right? When I iron it off, do I use a pressing sheet or do I not? It doesn't tell me on here. But when I went to this guide and I went in here and said, okay, let's go to heat and gone. That's on page 42. I can flip to that here. It tells me using a low to medium temperature, place heated iron tip directly on top of the garment to remove the excess stabilizer. So this answered my question for me, right? I didn't have to wonder, well, I don't know, am I gonna ruin my iron? If I iron right on it, do I need a pressing sheet, right? You don't need a pressing sheet, you just iron directly on it and the heat removes it. So this is just a really great tool because there are instructions and information inside of these. And these are in the tubes here, they have little instruction sheets that come with, I can pull this one out of this guy that's already open. They do have instruction sheets that are in here and they tell you how to use them. But what I love about this book is that it's all in one place and I can write notes to myself and I have it all together and I don't have to remember where I've, you know, put this little guy right here. So that is something that is sort of helpful, I think, to know that exists because it has all of their different stabilizers and it also has the color keeper topping in here and tells you how to use it, which is the next thing I'm going to talk about. So let's talk about this towel. So this towel is totally a work in progress. I honestly was playing with a lot of things and I didn't test it on something else because I needed terry cloth, right? If I wanted to play with these new products to see what they were going to do, I needed to do it on a terry cloth towel and not just on a piece of cotton muslin or something because it wouldn't, you know, it wouldn't really show me the same results. So Color Keeper Topping is this new product by Floriani and it comes in these different colors, right? There's pink, there's gray, there's yellow, there's white, and there's black. And so the idea behind this is that sometimes when you're embroidering, when you have a color design on a white towel, or maybe it was like a white design on a black towel, anytime you have really extremes, sometimes you really see the color of the towel through the actual design. And so the idea behind the Color Keeper topping is that you can use this as your topping instead of the heat and gone, or actually on these two, I actually used both. So in this pumpkin here, if you get really close, you can sort of see, I actually used the pink in the background here, and I wasn't really sure at first how I felt about it, but I think it looks pretty good. I think maybe if I did it again, I wouldn't use it up here in the actual like stem, right? I probably would have just used it in the pumpkin area, but it did a pretty good job, and it was probably the closest. Yellow might have worked if I'd used maybe more yellowy orange, but where you can really see where it works pretty awesome is here in like, look at this. I used black. So this one I used the actual black here, up here like this, and you can see like, look at this O here and see how it sort of has little rough edges. And then you take a look at like this O and you see how perfect it is. And that's because the black Color Keeper topping here, you know, you put it on top just like the other topper. In fact, the way I had this layered was I had my heat and gone there, and then I had my Color Keeper topping like that. And I just, because I put a little piece over here and then I put a little piece over here for just these areas, because you can do different pieces of Color Keeper topping depending on what part of the design. And then this just tears. So I was able to just tear it off. But you can sort of see it's sort of cool the way that it works for when you have some really extreme, because I think that these letters just look more clear than these ones. So this was sort of a fun learning towel. So there's all these different colors, and the idea is that you want the color to be as close as possible to the color of your thread. And that's how it's going to work best. And you can see it sort of also feels a little plasticky, but it was really easy to just, you know, these were all filled in and I just popped them out with my fingers, tore it away, really easy to use. So let's go back over here. This guy is finished with this color, so we're gonna put another color on here and get it embroidering some more, but you can see it's just embroidering away here. This guy all threaded again. I did get the thread in there, I did. Oh. Let's do that one more time. There we go. Okay, I'm gonna lower this and we're gonna do the L now. So away it's going. Okay, so that was my fun story about this new color keeper topping, because it's a brand new product, or pretty new, I should say, and I hadn't used it before. So let's move all of this, and then let's talk about embroidering on a different, so I forgot to bring over what this is. So at all of the Quality Sewing store locations, well, I shouldn't say all, at 9 of our 11 locations, we now carry fabric, which is really fun. This is new for us. We've only had fabric here in Tukwila for about a year, maybe a little more than a year. This is the first location, and I'm in our Tukwila location right now. This is the first location that we put fabric in. But what's fun, one of the new things that just came in is toweling. So this is a piece of the toweling that we have, and we have all of these different colors of it. It's pretty cool, and I left the edge raw so you could just see, because basically like this just came off of the roll of toweling, and I cut it, and then to finish this, I'm going to actually just, you know, flip this over and then flip it again, and it will have a nice finished edge. But what I think is really fun about this is that you could make a whole coordinating set, right? You could make kitchen towels, you could make placemats, you can make napkins, you can make table runners, really fun. And so this I embroidered a little bit differently. So this is just a cotton toweling material, and it's a lot thinner than these towels over here. So I still use the Perfect Stick on the back, but I did not use a topper on this because I didn't need to, because there's no like terry cloth, there's no nap that it was going to get dumped into, and then I just picked a fun design and lined it up. And with this one, I was worried about my center for this one was right here, right? Because I wanted it to be centered between my stripes and this line. That was what I was looking for in the way I hooped this one. And then once this guy gets folded up here a little bit, right, it's going to probably be closer to about that when I'm all finished. And then it looks really nice, and then I sort of picked something that sort of matched the style of the toweling. But there's really endless things you can do with towels. They are great housewarming gifts, they're great Christmas presents, baby showers, wedding showers, all those different things. They also can just be fun seasonally if you're just like, oh, you know, I want a couple of Halloween towels. Like, I know my kids are always on me. They're like, Mom, we need more Halloween decorations throughout our house. Really fun. Have my daughter embroider some towels. She'll have some more stuff, right? So towels are super fun. So this guy is still going. We're gonna tell it to go one more here, down to the next color. And of course, this is a 3-color design. So I just picked to do it in 2 colors because I sort of like monochrome in my bathrooms. But you could pick to do it in any colors, right? I oftentimes don't follow the pattern exactly. Like back to this pumpkin here, just to give you an example. Like this pumpkin, it had little leaf things here, and I chose not to put them on. I just didn't do that color because I didn't want it. This design here had little pumpkin seeds all the way around it. It was supposed to be a circle, and I thought because of the side here, I thought it would look better without those pumpkin seeds, so I just didn't do that color, and so I got the design exactly how I wanted it. So feel free to play with colors in your designs, and also, you know, if there's some part of the whole design that's a color by itself that you're just don't really want that part, you can just skip that color and just move forward to the next color. So this guy is finishing, but why don't we, while it just finishes embroidering over there, you can see I have one here all done. So there's a couple things we're gonna do. We're gonna tear off this heat and gone, just like this. And we're gonna undo our hoop here, pull our towel out. And this is just, you know, a tearaway now. So I'm just gonna go back here and I am just gonna tear this all away from my design. Tear that away. There's a couple different little strings back here where our tails. This machine does a lovely job. It cuts your jump stitches for you and it pulls the tails to the bottom. But sometimes I want my tails even shorter, so I'll just come through here and trim them. But you can see the back looks really nice. And you know, if you wanted, you could peel this out, and you could, but I wouldn't. I would just leave it because it's creating some nice stabilization, keeping it nice and flat. And there's a couple more little threads there to peel. And then when we go to the front here, you can see the heat and gone is in there, and if we want, we could go over to the iron, but let's just flip this over and sort of see here. We put this guy, center this guy here in the middle, right? We can flip this, get him sort of more centered there. Just how you want it. And well, I guess I should do it actually 100% in the middle. It'll probably work better and be actually centered as opposed to not quite. There we go. And then there you go. You can see we have this fun towel right here. And this guy is still just embroidering away. But if you want, we could walk over to the iron. I have it hot over here. This is going to be a little bit of an adventure. I did not tell my filming person that we were doing this. So we did not test this ahead of time. But I thought it would be nice to show you the final thing here of how you iron it away. One little bump there. Sorry guys, that's my fault for not telling her that we might take this adventure. So hopefully this iron is still hot. Let's see, oh, it's sort of turned off. But the idea is all you're gonna do is literally just take this and go like this here. My iron is not hot, but it just takes it right away once your iron is warm. And then all of this little plasticky stuff just comes totally out, and then you are all done and you have a beautiful towel. So thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you learned some things. If you have questions about anything, you know, we did this live, but this will stay posted on our Facebook page and on our YouTube channel. So if you have questions at all, you can feel free to post a question if you're watching this at a later date, and we will definitely reply to you and get you answers. So happy sewing, and go make yourself a fun towel.